Under the steamy Miami sun, Tia Torres has spent 2 decades building a sanctuary of second chances, both for pit bulls and for parolees returning to society after prison. As the founder of Villalobos Rescue Center and star of Pit Bulls and Parolees, she became a beacon of hope, transforming condemned dogs into cherished companions and shattered lives into stories of redemption. Yet behind every triumphant rescue and heartwarming adoption lay late nights of exhaustion, endless paperwork, and the constant juggle of managing staff, volunteers, and rescue operations. Few could match Tia's boundless optimism. Fewer still sensed the storm gathering on her horizon that on a humid July evening, Tia rushed to her kennels after a frantic late shift call. One of her senior pit bulls, Magnolia, was gravely ill. The devoted caretaker in her sprang into action, for pump humming, antibiotics at the ready, while her mind raced through possibilities. Canine parvovirus outbreak? Heat stroke? Heart failure? But what she discovered in the cramped exam room would change everything. Magnolia's rapid lab tests revealed a blood disorder so rare that most veterinary hospitals hesitate to treat it. I realized in that moment, Tia recalls, voice trembling. If Magnolia was this fragile, then maybe I was blind to my own vulnerabilities. By dawn, the rescue center's staff had rallied. Volunteers assembled makeshift isolation wards, while a network of board-certified veterinary specialists conferred by video chat. Tia patiently repositioned an otherwise triumphant dog under a cold pack. Through the haze of fatigue, she felt a sharp pang in her chest, an ache she'd attributed to carrying so many burdens for so long. A sub-basement exam later confirmed her worst fear. Tia had an aggressive form of lymphoma, discovered only because her immune system was strung so thin. I was more worried about Magnolia than myself, she says with a rueful smile. How do you lead a rescue when you're the one who needs saving? The next weeks became a blur of radiation sessions nestled between bottle-feeding, abandoned puppies. News crews descended upon the rescue to cover Tia's diagnosis, cameras trained on her every step. Chemo appointments, blood draws, faint smiles for the cameras. In private, though, Tia cringed at her own reflection, swollen from steroids, thinning hair plastered beneath a bandana. When she tried to stand in front of her parolee interns to give instructions, her legs shook. Still, the rescue needed her. The dogs, especially Magnolia, needed her energy. And the parolees, many of whom saw her as a surrogate mother figure, depended on her unwavering resolve. Viewers who had tuned in for uplifting transformations now watched Tia face her most personal battle. Social media lit up with the hashtag #FightWithTia, and donation pages with video clips of her fighting tears in the chemo ward gathered thousands in emergency funding. Yet no amount of crowdfunding could replace the fine line between inspiration and exploitation. Tia bristled at the thought of her illness becoming a ratings play, yet she recognized the truth. The more the world knew of her struggle, the more they rallied to support Villalobos' mission. You either let the diagnosis define you, she told her staff, or you define how you fight it. As the rescue's board of directors convened an emergency meeting, they debated protocols should Tia step back. The risks of her leading kennel tours or handling medical emergencies loomed large. Some board members quietly suggested a hiatus, allow someone younger and healthier to step into the spotlight. But the parolee program's momentum depended on Tia's personal mentorship. Staff recalled how she'd personally coached ex-offenders on resume building, home visits for adoptions, and reintegration dinners. Without her guiding presence, morale would crater. They voted unanimously. The rescue would reallocate administrative duties, hire a medical director to oversee canine cases, and shield Tia from high-stress tasks. But only if she agreed. Balancing her treatment schedule and the rescue's daily crises pushed Tia to her breaking point. One evening, after a marathon of consultations with her oncologist, she collapsed in her office chair, overwhelmed by dread. Magnolia whimpered through the door, draped in her own foreline. In that quiet moment, mentor and protege lay side by side, frail survivors tethered by the same uncertain future. Tia gently stroked Magnolia's head and vowed, I may be sick, but I'm not giving up on this mission. Not now, not ever. As dawn broke over the paddocks, the rescue team rallied around Tia. Volunteers took over dog walking shifts. Parolee interns reorganized the clinic schedule to minimize her exposure. A local hospice group set up a comfort lounge for her chemo days, complete with homemade soup and crochet blankets for her frail shoulders. Magnolia, now stable on powerful medication, offered Tia a steady presence in her darkest hours. The fight ahead promised more hospital visits, grueling treatments, and days when the rescue would have to carry her as much as she had carried it. Yet one truth shone clear in the early morning light, when she had so much more to give, to pit bulls, to prisoners, to every soul in search of mercy. Tia Torres' own heartbreak would become her greatest testament to hope. Over the next weeks, Villalobos Rescue Center became a hive of coordinated effort, all focused on carrying Tia through her treatment while never letting the rescue miss a beat. Her medical team in Miami prescribed 6 cycles of R-CHOP chemotherapy, spaced 3 weeks apart, followed by a targeted course of radiation to mop up remaining lymphoma cells. Every Friday morning, Tia arrived at Jackson Memorial's oncology unit wearing a bright scarf tied under her hair, a small act of defiance against the thinning strands she'd lost to chemotherapy. By midday, her arms were tethered to 4 bags dripping vincristine, doxorubicin, cyclophosphamide, and prednisone. Those steroids and cytotoxic agents left her drained, nauseous, and sometimes bedridden, but she never missed her evening video call with the rescue. Back at the kennels in Micanopy, Florida, the parolee interns and longtime volunteers formed an ad hoc leadership circle to shoulder Tia's usual duties. Breon, once incarcerated for narcotics offenses and now certified in animal handling, reorganized the transport schedule to ensure every dog reached its veterinary appointment. Clarissa, previously convicted of embezzlement, mastered the rescue's finances in a new cloud-based ledger, tracking expenditures from Magnolia's blood transfusions to emergency splints for a German Shepherd puppy with a broken leg. Third-generation volunteer Parker, whose family had worked nearby for decades, balanced intake interviews over encrypted tablets, routing adoption paperwork through secure e-signatures so Tia need only click approve from her hospital bed. The outpouring of support fooled no one into thinking this was just another ratings stunt. When NBC Miami ran a feature on Villalobos' Care Beyond Cure model, juxtaposing Tia's chemo treatments with her staff tending sick pit bulls, donations spiked. Within hours, the rescue's GoFundMe total jumped by $150,000, thanks to grants from animal welfare philanthropists and small gifts from pet lovers coast to coast. A retiree in Vermont, moved by a late-night broadcast, wired $25,000 and included a handwritten note. "Your fight for every life reminds me to fight my own." Tia, weak from another round of steroids, recorded a shaky thank you video that went viral under the hashtag #StillFightingWithTia, uniting strangers in gratitude and determination. Meanwhile, the Villalobos board convened an emergency meeting and unanimously appointed Dr. Harlow Myers, DVM, as interim CEO. Myers, a canine hematologist from the University of Florida, overhauled vaccination schedules, installed real-time water quality monitors at the outdoor runs, and migrated all medical charts to a digital platform, freeing Tia from mountains of paperwork. In weekly video check-ins, tanks full of graphs and lab results appeared on screen. White blood counts rebounding, CT scans showing shrinking masses. Myers cautioned everyone to celebrate incremental progress. Lymphoma required aggressive maintenance beyond initial remission. Her modest cottage next to the rescue. Tia's husband Robin shifted his postal worker schedule to chauffeur her to chemo and administer nausea meds at home. In the living room, Magnolia, hooked up to her own 4-line, rested on a plush cot. Each day, her amber eyes followed Tia's gentle hand, the bond between rescuer and rescued deepening under conditions neither would have chosen. As Magnolia's condition stabilized, she became Tia's constant companion in the fight, a reminder that healing could surface in the dogged determination of a pit bull as well as in human tenacity. Inside the kennel break room, the parolee interns taped up courage maps, charting Tia's treatment milestones. Sticky notes declared Cycle 1 complete, halfway mark, and first radiation alongside emergency contacts for counselors, financial advisors, and clergy. Those maps formed a visual vow of solidarity, anchoring a community forged on second chances in the most trying of times. Each time Tia posted another chemo selfie to Instagram, Her followers, both pet adopters and parolee graduates, rallied with hopes and prayers, transforming social media into a tapestry of collective care. And when Tia posted a grainy photo of her bag and the rescue's logo on her tank top, the caption read simply, "Still fighting." Viewers in shelters and foster homes shared the post thousands of times, flooding the rescue's Facebook page with messages of support. More importantly, the volunteer team and interns felt their own spirits lifted, seeing how their behind-the-scenes work buoyed the woman at the heart of their mission. Together, they proved that a rescue center is as much about human resilience as it is about saving animals, because sometimes the fiercest fights happen when two-legged members of the pack need saving, too. As Tia entered her third month of combined chemotherapy and radiation, the relentless ups and downs began to take a heavier toll, emotionally as much as physically. Bad days arrived without warning. Sudden fevers, waves of nausea that left her too weak even to sip water, and moments of despair when she wondered if she'd have the strength to greet another sunrise. On one such morning, she received a call from Dr. Myers, a 6-year-old pit bull named Jasper, rescued weeks earlier from an abusive puppy mill, had developed acute bloat and needed emergency surgery. Tia's heart clenched at the bedside news. The last time she'd been in the clinic so frequently, she'd been with Magnolia. Now, strapped to an 4-pole herself, she longed to walk Jasper's trembling body into the operating room. Jasper's prognosis was grim. His stomach had twisted so severely that the only chance was an expensive procedure requiring prolonged hospitalization. Tia insisted on covering every bill, even sending a mobile payment link from her hospital bed, but her chemo-induced tremors nearly scrawled the wrong amount. Meanwhile, the rescue's board debated whether to euthanize Jasper. Resources were stretched thin, and costs were climbing. When the interns heard of the dilemma, they staged an impromptu fundraiser, posting photos of Jasper's soulful eyes on local community pages and rallying for Jasper's second chance. Within hours, strangers had donated enough to cover surgery, supplies, and overnight ICU care. Tia wept when she learned the news. Through shaky video, she watched a volunteer gently place Jasper into a recovery crate, his ribs still visible under a pale stomach. That night, Tia's chemo drip seemed to slow. She lay back, exhausted, and whispered, "You fight too, boy." The following morning, the update came. Jasper had stabilized. His vet staff recorded a wagging tail caught on camera, and the parolee interns organized a victory walk around the kennels to boost morale. Jasper's resilience became a beacon not only for Tia, but for everyone at Villalobos. In the face of darkness, small victories shone brightest. Yet heartbreak revisited the rescue when another dog, Luna, a deaf, senior mastiff surrendered after her owner's eviction, succumbed suddenly to heart failure. Tia had bonded with Luna during morning feedings, humming softly as she slid bowls beneath the dog's stooped frame. Luna's passing came overnight, before Tia's scheduled radiation session. When the news arrived, her husband Robin found her asleep on Magnolia's blanket, snoring softly, a sign she'd fallen asleep mid-prayer. He gently pried open her clenched fist, releasing the worn photo of Luna she'd carried in her purse. "She's at peace," he whispered, stroking Tia's fevered brow. The loss cast a pall over the rescue. Even the parolee interns shed tears for the dog whose only crime was loyalty. In the lobby that afternoon, Tia made her first stumble in the embodying the resolve she'd preached. As Dr. Myers approached to review her blood counts, Tia's legs buckled. She woke on a stretcher, the whir of the gurney wheels and the antiseptic sting of the ER blending into a cruel lullaby. The diagnosis: dehydration, anemia, and dangerously low platelets, side effects of her aggressive treatment. Tia's oxygen levels wavered. Doctors debated postponing her next chemo round. Panic rippled through the rescue community. If Tia needed to pause treatment, who would hold everything together? Volunteers and interns rallied once more. They rotated through 24-hour shifts, ensuring the cages were cleaned and the dogs fed, while a handful of parolees took turns checking Tia's recovery updates on the hospital app. Staff nurses staged informal visits and scrubs, offering coloring books and dog-themed crosswords to lift Tia's spirits. Even local schoolchildren got involved. A third-grade class painted "Get Well Soon" posters festooned with paw prints and hearts, which Robin hung on her hospital wall. Each gesture, however small, reminded Tia she wasn't fighting alone. That night, in a rare burst of clarity between bouts of pain, Tia reached for her phone and recorded a video log for her parolee interns and volunteers. "I'm weak right now, but your strength carries me. Keep saving the dogs. I promise to come back." When she hit send, the hospital room rung with notifications, messages of encouragement flooding in from adopters, viewers, staff, and strangers alike. As the tears traced clean lines down her pinched cheeks, Tia realized that her hardest lesson wasn't about saving others. It was about letting herself be saved. After her collapse in the hospital, Tia's medical team convened to chart a safer path forward. They adjusted her chemo protocol, reducing dosages to stabilize her blood counts while bolstering supportive care for fluids, anti-nausea drips, and growth factors to stimulate new blood cells. Yet even with these precautions, each treatment still felt like walking a tightrope. One wrong step risked a setback that could shut down the rescue's operations. Through video link, Tia joined the weekly executive call, her voice frail but determined. "I'll do whatever it takes," she assured her team, "even if it means fighting this battle at the pace of a nursing puppy." Meanwhile, Magnolia's condition improved so dramatically that her isolation cage was emptied, and she rejoined the main kennel pack. At first, Magnolia approached Tia tentatively during home care visits, sniffing the same pale cheeks Tia had once stroked in the clinic. Then, in a moment of pure affirmation, Magnolia pressed her head into Tia's lap, as though to say, "We've got each other." That silent communion bolstered Tia's resolve. She scribbled "Magnolia's Miracle" on her dry erase board to mark the day. The parolee interns celebrated by organizing a garden party for the dogs, complete with frozen treats made from strained chicken broth. In the photos posted online, Tia's smile, thin as it was, shone like a beacon against her pallor. Yet the rescue had more fires to fight. A sudden storm surge swamped the backlot runs, flooding play areas and stranding 6 dogs on raised platforms. While Tia dozed in a monitored observation room, volunteers and parolee teams donned waders and pumped out water with hoses and submerged generators. Clarissa later admitted she sobbed into Tia's chemo scarf when the rescue livestream showed her scrubbing mud off a bedraggled pit bull. Within hours, the kennels were dry, and the dogs romped among fresh straw repacked by hands that never took a day off. Each puppy's joyful leap carried an unspoken message. Even amid personal crisis, the rescue's work must continue on her next hospital visit. Tia mustered the energy to greet her medical team in person. They marveled at her resilience. Her white count had rebounded enough to start the next round of chemo, albeit at a lower intensity. "You are the toughest canine I've ever known," quipped her lead oncologist, Dr. Patel, handing Tia a card decorated with Pit Bull stickers. In return, Tia gifted Dr. Patel a Villalobos rescue hat, symbolizing their partnership in healing. The exchange underscored how her world had blurred lines between human and animal care. Each life saved, four-legged or two, fueled her own fight for survival. Back at Villalobos, the adoption center reopened to the public for the first time in weeks. Visitors streamed in, families seeking a companion, parolees working soft skills with hopeful applicants, and curious neighbors drawn by news of Tia's condition. A woman named Clarabelle adopted Jasper that day, cradling the dog who had triumphed in surgery. Another family welcomed Luna's successor, a gentle senior named Rosa who reminded Tia of her fallen friend. Each adoption filled a hole left by crisis, affirming that second chances thrive even in the darkest seasons. In the evenings, as Tia lay in her hospital cot, she scrolled through dozens of fan videos. Parolees singing rough-edged lullabies to shelter dogs, children reading dog etiquette guides aloud in hospitals, and even a group of Florida state prisoners painting portraits of pit bulls wearing warrior helmets tagged #PitBullsFightOn. Tears streamed down Tia's cheeks, but this time they tasted of pride rather than pain. She recorded a quiet voice memo. "Every life we save echoes back to mine. I am never alone in this struggle." The recording found its way into the rescue's weekly newsletter, galvanizing volunteers who had feared the worst. As her chemotherapy cycles stretched toward the halfway mark, Tia experienced a rare moment of calm. Surgeons completed a minor procedure to implant a port for medication, and she listened as the rhythmic beep of monitors lulled her into a dreamless sleep. In that restorative slumber, she dreamed of Villalobos's tree-lined driveway, the scent of orange blossoms drifting through open kennels, and the chorus of happy barks welcoming her home. She awoke with renewed clarity. Her legacy would outlive her fight, sustained by the countless lives buoyed by her courage. With treatment modifications finally gaining traction, Tia approached each day with renewed strategy. She limited hospital visits to essential infusions, delegated more tasks to her interim leadership team, and reclaimed precious hours to record training videos for future parolee cohorts. Though her body remained fragile, her spirit reclaimed its familiar ferocity. In the muted hospital light, she whispered, "This story is not about how I almost gave up, but how I never stopped giving everyone else a chance."